So good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to you all to DEH ULAB. And I hope you all are doing well. I'm Dr. Sada Farzana Sultana. I'm an assistant professor at the Department of English and Humanities at ULAB. And today we have among us Mohammad Shams Ud Doha, the title of today's presentation is Design-Based Research, Bridging Research and Practices. I'll introduce our presenter in a bit, but before that, I would like to request you all to mute your microphones. And if you would like, you can continue chatting at the chat box, and then you can ask your questions and comments, write your comments there too, because we are going to have a question answer session at the end of the at the end of this webinar, and our presenter will probably be available to answer those questions. So I would like to actually invite our Honorable Acting Vice Chancellor and the Dean of School of Arts and Humanities, Dr. Shams Ud Doha sir, to say a few words before we get started with the webinar.
No, thank you, Hafsa. Sorry, I cannot turn on my video, so I'm submitting a very casual press, right? But I've been waiting for this day for a long time. So Sakin and I, we have been corresponding about this, design-based research for some time now. We wanted to have it last year, soon after the, COVID impact, and basically the idea that when we were transitioning to online education, so we wanted to shared experience and know about the best practices in the United States. And we wrote a proposal, so based on this, along with Purdue University, which unfortunately did not go through, but our partnership has strengthened throughout the process of, proposal writing and all that. So Sakin is a student of mine from, Jahangirnagar University. So we have fond memories of working together, and he was enlisted with BTV. So he writes, teledramas. So he is an author, writer, translator, activist, and a lot of other things. And above all, he's a rated chess player. So he's a multi-talented fellow, and a very fun person to be with. So I'm really thankful to Sakin. So even though it says Shams Ud Doha, and I'm sure Hafsa was also struggling to, get the official name, because we know him.
I know her by Sakin too.
By his nickname. So Sakin is a very good friend of ULAB, and he has been very generous with his time and making sure that we have the right network. And this is the beginning of a long journey. So thank you, Sakin, for doing this. And of course, thank you, Arifa and your team, Hafsa and others, DH, for organizing this much important event. So, and I'm sure our students and colleagues will be benefited by this session today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, who I personally know. I've known him for, I guess, 12, 13 years now, right? So from, our experience of teaching Bangla to the American students. So Mohammad Shams Ud Doha is currently pursuing his PhD in Learning Design and Technology at Purdue University, USA. And he's also the recipient of the prestigious Andrews Fellowship at Purdue. He has worked as an instructional designer for Purdue Repository for Online Teaching and Learning portal, and the Para Impact Project at Purdue University. He currently serves as the president of the Purdue Association of Learning Design and Technology, PALDT, a student association within the Learning Design and Technology program. Prior to his joining Purdue, he taught English at Brack University in Bangladesh. He was also awarded a Fulbright scholarship to teach at Indiana University, Bloomington, USA during the 2015 and 2016 academic year. So we both taught, Bangla to the American students with a Fulbright scholarship. And his specific research interests are online learning environment, social media in education, and micro-learning. Shams is also a writer and a chess player, as Shamsud Sir has already mentioned. And he has written and edited 5 books, written about 9 plays and drama serials for Bangladesh television, and achieved an international rating in chess. So now over to Shams for the presentation. Thank you very much for joining us, Shams.
Thank you so much, Hafsa. I was actually jack of all trades, but master of none in Bangladesh. Then I decided to be a master in at least one field. That's why I came here to do my PhD in online learning.
So that's why I'm your master. So you're none and I'm the master.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for your kind comment and introduction. And Shamsud sir was my direct professor, and I'm very proud of the fact. And he has been my mentor for the last, I think, 15 or 16 years. So it always feels great to reconnect it and talk to you and have you in my event. So let me warn you first that I am not an expert of DBR. I will share what I know, and I still consider myself as a novice researcher. Maybe when I get my PhD, I can call myself as a beginning researcher or something like that. So I will share what I know about DBR. So let me share my screen. Okay. So design-based research, bridging research and practice. I will refer to DBR, design-based research, as DBR from now, as it is the shorter term, and it will also save some of our time if I call it DBR. So let me first talk a little bit about Purdue University. So I'm enjoying my PhD journey here, and this is a great university to study. It is one of the largest public universities in the US, enrolling around 80,000 students in its 4 campuses. And it has been consistently ranked as one of the best universities for engineering and technology in the US. And it has also been ranked as one of the best innovative universities in the US and probably in the world too. So I'm really proud to be a student here. And you can see some 2 pictures from Purdue University. So I wanted to do an introduction, but for the sake of time, I think I'll skip this part. But I will get to know you more through the question and answer session, and please feel free to ask me any question when you have. I mean, it is going to be an interactive, and it is going to be an informal session as well. So feel free to put your comments in chat or unmute your microphone and ask your question. So the agenda for today is very simple. Like in an hour, it will be very difficult to cover a vast topic like DBR, but I'll try to give you some ideas so that you can explore it further. And I'll also share some resources. I'll share an example project. I'll share an example paper that we have just submitted to a journal last week. So I think that this will give you some ideas, initial ideas that you can explore in future. So what is DBR? What are some frameworks of DBR, characteristics of DBR, steps of DBR, challenges of DBR, examples of DBR, then group activity. If time permits, we'll do a group activity. I'll put you in probably 3 or 4 breakout rooms to work on a problem. And then you will share what you have learned through this short workshop or short presentation. And then we'll also discuss the skill sets for a DBR researcher. I mean, you will need an entirely different skill sets to be a DBR researcher. So what are those skill sets? I hope that you'll get an idea after I cover the basics. So let us first start with some thoughts. I will appreciate your input here. So feel free to unmute your microphone or put your thoughts in chat. So my first question to you is that, does research always lead to practice? What do you think? I'm sure many of you are doing research. And do you see your research findings always implemented in practice? Or do practitioners always follow research? What is your idea? Not necessarily. Why
Answer
not?
the first question, probably not always.
Not always. Why? Can you come up with at least one reason or two reasons? I can see a lot of not always, not necessarily. Why?
Sir, I think it's because research has become this this marker of academic success, and you just have to churn it out, even if you don't have applicable uses for it. So it's about getting recognition and getting all of these promotions and whatnot that are depending on research. So that is why it's not always applicable in real life.
So you think that the academicians or the researcher think about their own recognition and they just pursue research for their own gains and doesn't care about...
They have to, it is enforced.
Okay, yeah, that's true, of course, I mean, maybe to a great extent. So traditionally research mainly focuses to create an argument. Yeah, that's true as well. Like this, there is always this academic debate. Yes, in my field, always. So what do you mean by that? Can you please elaborate on that a bit?
I normally work for photography, and in some cases it's related with the marketing. Just like my last book chapter I wrote on the panic buy. So it is from the field. It means so what happened during the pandemic, why people are buy too much thing which is not needed. So, and in photography, yes, what I did, it's from my real world. How the digital file work and why it is changing. So in my field, it's always from the practice.
So research always informs practice in your field.
Practice, yeah.
Okay, that's a good thing to do, but it's not true for all the fields. It's probably because that researchers do not always address contemporary issues, or maybe practitioners do not understand the language of research that will come a bit later. And there is always a gap between research and practice, and which DBR can address, so which we'll talk more about in very soon. So my second question to you is that, is it researchers' responsibility to make sure their research translates into practice? What do you think? Do we have a social responsibility as researchers to make sure that our research translates into practice?
I think when we choose a topic for our research, we should think about practices as well. I mean, we should try to make some connection, think of topics or issues that are very relevant for us, practical issues, and then do research on those. So that's at least probably something researchers can do. And then I think, both researchers and practitioners should work together, so that
there should be more collaboration between researchers and practitioners, because the ideal question is, what is the use of research if it does not translate into practice? Because we are doing research to inform practice, but that's not always the case. And
and we are spending a lot of time, when we do a research, we want to see those, translated in practice.
Right, and that's why some journals now require you to write a special segment where you will only write about the implications of your research, or how practitioners can get the essence of that. And there are, of course, some practitioner journals where you can, like, the research language is not there, it's more practitioner-friendly language. So these are also in the market. So do practitioners understand the language of research? What do you think? And this ties to my second question, that we need to also keep that option open so that practitioners can understand at least the findings or the implications of research. So I'll skip that question for a bit now. So Let me present a scenario for you to think about the scenario. So imagine that you are the head of the online learning unit of a university. Due to COVID, your unit is tasked with designing, developing, and implementing an intervention, like preparing resources and training faculty on online learning as the university would like to continue teaching. What will be your action plan? What are some steps you will take to achieve that goal? Just tell me 1 or 2 steps that you immediately think in your mind after being assigned.
I think I would first do needs analysis.
So you'll first do a need analysis, like what are the current skill sets of your faculty, how much your faculty know right now. So this is something that you also do in research, right? You do surveys, you talk to people. So you do similar kind of things when you are doing a project as well. What are some of the other things that you'll do?
And the needs analysis, I think, it's relevant for the students as well, where they are and what kind of support they need and kind of access they have.
Yeah, because if you don't know your students, you cannot use a particular technology, because if the students do not have access to that technology, you cannot ultimately implement that. So you need to know your faculty, you need to know your students. So even if it is a project, you are doing research in some ways. So we'll see the connection between this and DBR very soon. And what are some other things that you do? Probably you will talk to your faculty, you interview your faculty. So this is something that you also do when you do qualitative research, like you interview people. Then you probably make an action plan. And this is something that you do in developing the methodology of your research. So there are a lot of similarities between when you do a project and when you implement the steps of a project and when you do research. And that's how we are finding the connection between a project and research, or research and practice. So what is DBR? So this is a definition that came from Wang and Hanafin. So I will use this article a lot throughout my presentation because this is one of the foundational articles in our field. And Michael Hanafin is one of the prominent figures in learning design and technology. And Wang was his student at the time. So he was a doctoral student in 2005. So together they wrote this paper, and it's one of the seminal papers on design-based research, especially design-based research applicability in technology, technology learning or technology integration. So design-based research is a systematic but flexible methodology aimed to improve educational practices through iterative analysis, design, development, and implementation, based on collaboration among researchers and practitioners in real-world settings and leading to contextually sensitive design principles and theories. I know it's a long definition, so I have highlighted some of the key phrases that you need to know. Like it's a systematic but flexible methodology. It might seem like an oxymoron, that how can a systematic thing can be like flexible, but it is, because it will give you enough chances or enough opportunities to refine your model, refine your product, but you will do it in a systematic way that we'll see in the next slides. So iterative analysis, design, development, and implementation. So you'll repeat the process until you find a satisfactory design or satisfactory model or a satisfactory product. How many times you have to do this iteration, that depends on your time, that depends on your other constraints, but the more the better. But again, it's highly contextual, so it depends on your individual scope and individual time constraint or fund constraint. And it's always collaboration among researchers and practitioners in real world settings. So we'll address a real problem, like the scenario we have seen, it's a real problem. And it leads to contextually sensitive design principles and theories. And this is something that differentiates DBR from formative evaluation or action research, is that the outcome of DBR is principles and theories. So you start with the theory, and eventually you get, or you give another theory to the community, and that's highly depends on the context that you are in, and we'll come to that. So this is a simple, a definition of DBR from one of the seminal articles in our field. So let me show you some frameworks of DBR briefly, so that you can have more ideas on how DBR works. And I will also show you an example very soon, so you'll get more ideas. So it starts with a problem, like your boss wants you to develop online resources. Now what will you do? So you cannot just start building resources. You have some guiding principles. So you need theory and you need context. And then you need to analyze and explore by combining theory and context. And then you design something, and then you can see that evaluation and reflection. So you evaluate your first product that you have built, and then you refine it. And then you go to the next step. You design it again, and then you do evaluation and reflection again. And this cycle continues until you find a satisfactory solution. Until the project ends. So this is in a nutshell DBR. It's iterative, it's systematic, it's a collaboration between researcher and practitioners. It includes theory, it includes context, and at the end you'll come up with some new theories that the practitioners community can utilize to do similar projects. So this is one framework. So this is another framework by Hanafin. It also has some of the elements that you saw in the earlier framework. So analysis of practical problems by researchers and practitioners in collaboration. So collaboration is very important. You analyze it together. What is the problem? You frame the problem. You build the scope of the problem. And then you develop solutions informed by existing design principles and technological innovation. So utilization of existing theories is very important in DBR. For example, if you want to develop a curriculum for second language learners, you have to study second language SLA literature. Otherwise, you cannot call it DBR. So it has to be grounded in literature. Then iterative cycles of testing and refinement of solutions practice. Then you develop a solution. It doesn't have to be perfect at first, but you develop something and you test it, and based on the result of the testing, you refine it. And then you do reflection to produce design principles and enhance solution implementation. So based on your experience of refining it, testing it, you come up with some new principles that are highly based on your context that you're in, and probably you will change the whole literature that you have used. Probably you will modify it a bit to suit your context, but you will come up with some sort of new understanding of the phenomenon. So at the end, and that's the final outcome of design-based research. And through this, you can enlighten the community, or you can inform the practices, or inform the people who are interested in developing similar kind of projects. So this is another framework. I will not go into detail on this, but you see that it's iterative, analysis, design, evaluation, then theoretical understanding, maturing intervention. Then you can see implementation and spread. The more you go, the more it's becoming bigger. So it's also becoming better. So it's a generic model for conducting design-based research in education. And again, then it has been further refined. You see that it has been divided into micro, meso, and macro. So analysis and exploration, design and construction, evaluation and reflection, and it's then repeated. So all the micro fields are like simple steps, like analysis and exploration is a macro one, design and construction is a macro one, and then design and evaluation are integrated into meso, and the whole thing is called macro. So there are three phases that they have divided the whole process. So this is another framework that you can look at. So what are the characteristics of DBR? So after this slide, I will take you through a real example But before that, I just want to explain the characteristics of DBR a bit so that you have more understanding. So DBR is pragmatic. So what does that mean? It means that it addresses a real world problem. It doesn't demand you that you have to come up with the best solution, but it has to be something that addresses the contemporary needs. So design-based research refines both theory and practice, and the value of theory is appraised by the extent to which principles inform and improve practice. So probably you cannot utilize the essence of the theory, but you can take as much as you need, or as much as your context needs. So that's how it makes it pragmatic. The second one is it is grounded. So design is theory driven and grounded in relevant research, theory, and practice. And it's conducted in real world setting, and the design process is embedded in and studied through design-based research. So although you are doing a project, every step, every design decision has to be grounded in literature. It has to be guided by literature. It has to be guided by a framework, a theory. And then when you see that something is not working, then you can refine it. And that makes it flexible. And that's tied with the third point, that is interactive, iterative, and flexible. So you have to constantly interact with practitioners. What are their problems? How can you refine it? How can this better serve your practitioners? It's iterative. You saw from the framework that it has been repeated a couple of times, so it's iterative. The flexibility is that you start with something and you see that it's not working, so you can always change it, you can refine it, you can modify it, you can completely replace it. So it's flexible. So the fourth point is integrative. So what does it mean? It means that you can combine different methodologies into that. You don't have to limit yourself to quantitative analysis or only qualitative analysis or only observational studies or ethnography. You can combine all these different things together to come to a decision. So this is integrative and contextual because it is placed in your own individual context. Like you are developing something, you're developing some resources for higher education, online resources for higher education, for your faculty, maybe for your students. So it's highly contextual. Now I will take you through a real project that we have done at Purdue. So I hope that you can see portal, Purdue Repository for Online Teaching and Learning. So this is something we have done even before COVID for our faculty and graduate teaching assistants. So there is a need that university wanted to expand on online learning, but they have found out that faculty and teaching assistants are not skilled in online teaching, or they do not know yet how to teach online. So our department has taken this initiative to build a repository where you'll see, or where the faculty members and the graduate students can find all the resources they need. I'm sure many of you are familiar with our Purdue Online Learning Lab, like Purdue OWL. So this is something similar to Purdue OWL, which we make it open for everybody to get resources on online learning. You can see that we have resources, like we have further categorized that into strategies for online teaching and learning, then getting started, thinking about your course design, upping your game, then policies and procedures. And if you click on one of the resources, you'll see it's just a 2-pager. Like it covers what is it, why is it important, how to do it, then additional resources references. So every resource is a 2-pager. So where a practitioner, a faculty just can read and get some essence and get some tips from that, and they can readily implement these tips there. So this is our project where we used design-based research principles. So how did we do that? So let me show you a paper. So we have just submitted it last week, so it's still brand new. I cannot send this paper to you, but I can screen share it. I've already got the permission from my advisor. So you can see the title of this paper is Developing a Digital Repository for Online Teaching Using Design-Based Research. So we have just submitted this to one of our top tier journal, and it's currently under review. Hopefully it gets published soon and you'll get a copy, and then I'll share the link with you as well. So I just want to read the abstract so that you can see what we did. So the panels, it's Purdue actually, but we have anonymized it because of the publication. So the Purdue repository for online teaching and learning was developed as an open educational resource for graduate students and faculty in higher education settings to enhance their online teaching and skills and strategies. So it's a real world problem that we're solving through this project. So that's one of the aspects of DBR. It has to be pragmatic. So the portal team used a design-based research approach. So we used the DBR approach. Further in this study context, we use Ventian et al.'s model to identify problems faced by instructors who struggled with or were new to online teaching from a human performance technology standpoint. And this refers to the second characteristics of DBR, that it has to be grounded. So we used a model to understand the problem more, to guide our design decisions, and to come up with a new framework. So what is the model? It's a human performance technology model. I will also show it to you in the next few minutes. So human performance technology is a field which deals with human performance. So it's mostly used in industry and business contexts, but educational researchers or educational practitioners have also started using it recently. So we use this framework to understand our problem more. So this is also like, this refers to the second characteristics, that is, it has to be grounded. And to address the identified needs, we created resources for online teaching and embedded our research within practical activities to further study our design process. So we developed resources and we repeated the process. So that's iteration. We talk to faculty, we talk to students. So this is collaboration. And if you read the last two lines, our efforts resulted in an HPT OER model for designing digital repositories. As I have told you, that the outcome of DBR should be another principle or a set of principles or a theory. So this work particularly led to an HPT OER model for designing digital repositories. So what is the benefit of the community? The benefit of the community is that they will get some guidance if they want to build similar repositories for their university, for their organization. So the purpose of this paper is to share the DBR process that we use to develop an OER repository within an HPT model. So let me just take you through some of the aspects of the paper so that you can probably get some more ideas. Like introduction, it's a literature review, getting started. I want to highlight on these 7 steps that we took to complete our DBR process. So first, it starts with the needs analysis. As Farzanah also mentioned, that needs analysis will give you concrete ideas of what your faculty needs. So we sent out a survey of faculty members and graduate students pertaining to their online teaching experiences and needs, and topics were determined for resources. So the survey informed us what they need and what can we which resources can we develop that will serve them in the best possible way. And based on the survey, we develop resources, design and development phase. So topics were designed and developed, just-in-time resources. So it's not that we stopped at that point and uploaded all the resources on the website, because that we could do that, but that would not be perfect, or that would not be like an improved version of the whole thing. So that's why we did an internal evaluation by the portal team. So our internal evaluation gave us some more ideas. We made modifications based on internal evaluation. And then we sent them to experts who were like experts in online learning, or maybe copyright, maybe in different aspects of online learning. And they gave us evaluation. And through this external evaluation, we did further modifications. And you can see the iterative aspects of DBR is coming in. And then we implemented the intervention. So advisory board and user feedback. So our users also gave us feedback, and we're still refining it. So as soon as we get a feedback, we discuss about that and we refine that and we make it a better version. So this is kind of the DBR process in a nutshell. So I would also like to show you the framework that we use so that you can have some idea. So this is another foundational article on performance improvement HPT model. So the model is like that. So it starts with performance analysis. So through this phase, you identify the gap and you do a cause analysis, and that leads you to the intervention selection, design and development, and that leads you to the intervention implementation and maintenance. And you see that evaluation is part of every phase, like in needs analysis, intervention selection, design and development, intervention implementation and maintenance. So this also refers to the iterative aspect of the whole thing, that you need to evaluate that, you need to reflect on every phase, and you also need to document that, otherwise you cannot make it a research. So particularly we took this model because we thought that there is a performance gap in our faculty and students. They are not probably that, they need more guidance and more training on online learning. So we have used this as our initial framework. And then when we have all this experience, like when we do the needs analysis, when you do the, say, 174 faculty members and 435 graduate students responded to the survey from across campus. So we got a lot of quantitative data. So when we have all these experiences, see, we have made a list of what resources we will make. And you just saw that in our original site. And then we designed and developed the intervention. Then we further studied the literature and came up with that if these things are there, probably it will be easier for our readers to follow, like what is it, why is it important, how to do it, tools, additional resources, references. So you basically present the process of implementing the project in your paper. And steps 3 and 4 is internal evaluation and modification. So we describe that process, and you see that it's grounded in literature. We made a 15-point checklist so that we are consistent across our evaluations, then expert evaluations and modifications. Then you see there are some qualitative data as well, and that refers to the integrative aspect of DBR, that you can combine quantitative and qualitative methodologies. And then you see that intervention, implementation, and dissemination, we have developed an advisory board. They gave us further suggestion. So this is one of the statements from one of our users, and that really helped us to refine the resources overall. Then we have user feedback. We have put some of this here. And then feedback, dissemination, general user analytics. So that also gave us information. So you see that there are a lot of data sources that you can use in your DBR to come to your decision. And then after all these experiences, we have got our own model, and we named it HPT OER model. So OER refers to open educational resources. Since this is open resource, like anybody can access it, we also had to follow some OER principles. So initially we had 2 models. HPT is one and OER is another one. Let me show you that a little bit too. So these are some of the principles of OER, like it has to be retained. I mean, the users can retain it. Users have to revise, will be able to revise it. Then they can remix it, they can reuse it, and they can redistribute it. So we have like implemented all of this in our DBR resources. So they can do all of these things when a particular user download our resources or use our resources. So initially we had these 2 theoretical framework, HPT and OER, and then we have come up with a new framework. I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me try to enlarge it a bit. So we made it highly contextual now. So we have made specific comments under each step, like what were our goals and strategies, how did we make our analysis, like rapid increases in online courses, social responsibility to make education accessible to everyone. So this is the world analysis. What is the workplace analysis? High demand for online instructors in the next 12 to 18 months, quality of online instruction. What is the worker analysis? Demand of evidence-based practices, lack of experience and training in OTL. Then we did a gap analysis, like what is the difference between the desired performance and actual performance? The desired performance was instructors will apply best practices in online teaching and learning. But actual performance is instructors do not effectively integrate best practices in OTL. So what are the causes? So we came up with some environmental factors, like there are inadequate tools and resources to support OTL, lack of awareness of existing resources. So what is the consequences of that? The consequences, there will be student attrition, low student satisfaction. So what are some individual factors? Like skills and knowledge and individual capacity, not having the skills and knowledge to effectively design, develop, and conduct online resources, misconceptions about online teaching and workload, and motivation and expectation, low teaching satisfaction, low interest in online learning. So this analysis helped us to do a better intervention. So we have our intervention selection here, just-in-time OTL resources. That's our portal. An electronic support system, a comprehensive research-based resources, a one-step job aid, and you can see evaluation is part of every phase. And then we have selected the intervention. We have collaborated with different partners across the campus. We promoted it throughout the campus and also like in some other countries. And we did evaluations. We have 4 levels of evaluation: formative evaluation, summative evaluation, conformative evaluation, and meta evaluation. So this is a refined framework of the initial framework that we used. You can see that this is very general, but through this we have come to a very specific framework which anybody can use if they have an interest in building a repository for their university or for their institute. So that's how we conclude the paper. Actually, we have conclusion and lessons learned at the end. So that makes the paper. So this improves the practice, it improves research, and it also improves design. And this is the essence of DBR, that it improves practice, it improves design, and it improves research at the same time. So let me come back to my slide. So what are some principles of DBR? I know that you have got the essence of all these principles through the characteristics, but let me just give a little bit more explanation on that. So support design with research from the outset. So the research will start right away. Like as I mentioned in our paper, that we started with needs analysis. So research should be a part of all the phases that you can think of in your project or in your design-based research, and you have to document that research. Then set practical goals for theory development and develop an initial plan. Like you cannot be very you cannot go beyond your scope. So it's very bad. It's very important to set goals, like how far you want to go in terms of theory development. So a plan is very important. That will make you focused, and that will give a scope to the whole project. And conduct research in representative real-world setting. It cannot be conducted in a laboratory setting like the other research that we do. It has to be done in a real-world setting. You have seen that we were developing resources in real world, and we are also doing research at the same time through documenting our processes, through documenting our needs analysis, survey results, and every other thing that you saw throughout the process. Collaborate closely with participants. Your participants are very important in the DBR research. So because you are dealing with a real world issue, so participants need to be involved closely. Implement research methods systematically and purposefully. So you can combine different methods, but those should have a purpose. Like we had quantitative and qualitative, but each has had its own purpose. And the triangulation of this quantitative and qualitative gave us a better idea of refining our resources, and then analyze data immediately, continuously, and retrospectively. So analysis of data and documenting that continuously, immediately, and also you can probably look back. Reflection is very important. And that's why I think they use the word retrospective. And then refine designs continually. As you saw that we refined our resources a lot of times. It went through a lot of modifications. So this refers to that. And document contextual influences with design principles. Like you made several design decisions. Maybe if your context was different, probably you would not make those decisions. You would make different decisions. So it's very important to set up the context so that your readers can understand your context, so that they can utilize that in a context similar to this, so that they won't be misguided. So it's very important to set up the context in DBR because it's very context sensitive. So these are the principles of DBR, and then challenges of DBR. Of course, there are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of debates of DBR, and many scholars have not yet accepted DBR as legitimate or research methodology. So immature methodology is one of the concerns, like you are combining a lot of different methods into it, so it's not very focused. Number two is applicability and feasibility. So it's not always possible to talk to practitioners. Organizations might not allow it always. You might not get enough time to talk to every stakeholder. And sometimes there are feasibility issues as well. And sometimes the donor agencies do not want to fund design-based research because they do not think it's a good research method. So there are a lot of debates on that. It's the paradigm shift because it's not done in a laboratory setting, and it's very flexible. You can do almost anything that you want to do. Of course, that has to be guided, but you have more flexibility. So it's kind of a paradigm shift from other kind of researches. And data utilization is also a challenge. Probably you'll end up getting a lot of data and you have limited scope. Maybe you don't have enough time to analyze all the data, and you don't have enough space in your paper to explain or present all the data. So limitations are there, but there are ways to overcome those limitations, and every research has its limitations. That's why there is a limitation paragraph in every research paper, right? So limitations will be there, but it also gives us benefits. So probably we can take the benefits and present the limitations so that everybody is aware of the strengths and weaknesses of our project through DBR. So journals that accept DBR publications, there are actually a lot of journals that accept DBR publications. Like from our field, I have just mentioned 3 of our top tier journals: Computers and Education, ETR&D, and Tech Trends. And of course, different disciplines have different journals that accept DBR. And DBR is gaining more acceptance day by day. So I think it will not be an issue if you want to do a DBR, implement DBR in one of your projects and then write a report on that and then publish. It will be very possible. But these are the 3 main journals that we submit to from Purdue. So I've just mentioned them here. So how good are we with our time? Prasanapa, should we do that or should we skip that? I think it's already 8, right?
I think it's fine. We should do it.
So it's 8 p.m. We can probably have another 10. Yeah, it's 8. So, yeah, we can do it, I think. Yeah.
We can do it or we can skip it.
Let's do it a second because we started late. And if it is okay with you, I think this is going to be very useful for the...
Okay, sure. Yeah. I am also thinking so. So let me share the link of this presentation in the chat. So everybody has the link and everybody can go back to their some of the principles. So I think everybody has got the presentation. So I will create like 4 breakout rooms for you so that you can discuss this together. First, let me explain this a bit. So what you'll do here, in your group, come up with a problem, issue, challenge related to education that you'd like to address or solve or overcome. I could have given you specific scenario, but I want you to think through your own situation and come up with this issue or problem that you want to solve. So through discussion with your group members and utilizing DBR characteristics and principles, make an action plan. After your discussion, select a group member, you will present the plan, who will present the plan on behalf of the group. So example is your department head, I mean, this is just an example. Your case will be different. Your department head would like you to convert an in-person course into a blended course. How may you implement this project utilizing DBR methodologies? So you can get to it through the presentation, and let me put you into a couple of breakout rooms. I think I have the privilege. Yeah, so you'll be placed in different breakout rooms in seconds. Okay, I hope you had great discussion. So now we'd like to hear what you have found or what you have discovered. So I can see, how can I refer to those groups? What about from Dr. Shamshat Murtuza sir's group? Who wants to present from that group?
So we were group 4. I think Sumaya can share our thoughts, but
okay.
Yeah. Okay. But we
right.
did not. Yeah, all right, go ahead.
Yes, we couldn't really finish summing up. The room was kind of closed while we were discussing. So basically, we realized that some students want to come back to physical classrooms. Some students want to keep going with the online education. And in this sort of a reality where we no longer can make the decision for everyone just because we have the administrative power. Everyone has a voice now. And they have to be considered. So our proposal was that we should have an extensive survey with a detailed questionnaire and have the students fill them up, so that if they want to come back, we know what percentage want to come back. If they don't want to come back, we want to know the reasons and কত পার্সেন্টের কোন কারণে আসলে তারা আসতে চাচ্ছে না, and if we can solve them one by one, or if it's unsolvable right away, maybe we can offer alternatives temporarily until they are okay to adjust back to completely pre-pandemic times. So I guess that is what our discussion.
That's a great topic that you can further elaborate and make it into a paper. I think that's very relevant, like post-pandemic or the new normal situation. So did you think of any theoretical framework which you might want to use through your study? I know that it's very difficult to come up with theoretical framework in 8 minutes.
Thinking of the concept of asynchronous and synchronous education. So in physical classrooms, it's a live class. But what if we could make it a live class and then keep a record of it, so it's asynchronous as well, and then we could accommodate those the pupils that can't arrive in class. So maybe that could be.
Yeah. So you plan to review those literature as a guiding framework. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. So what about group 3? I think Arifa Madam's group.
Hi, Rizwana, you want to go ahead?
Sure, Appa. Hi, Shams bhai.
Hi, কেমন আছেন?
Hello. Anyway, so we were talking about reopening the university and an action plan for that one. So things came up where one of the points where when we open it, I mean, there's a period of adjustment because our students, we have got new students in the last 2 years, and some of them, they don't know actually anything about the university. They haven't even visited that place at all. So for those people, we were talking about having some sort of workshops. So if they could have some workshops, kind of like an orientation workshop, so campus orientation workshop, we could name them with all the fancy words, so, and we can actually make them attend those workshops and they can get a good idea. I mean, the problem we're just I just heard where we are talking about how some of the students, they are only interested to visit the campus rather than, doing the actual class. That problem could be solved if they get a taste of the university. I mean, if they get a taste of the idea through an orientation of the campus. I mean, how important it is to have that social life, or how important it is to have that academic taste, Another thing we talked about was doing a bit of needs analysis. We got like a post-COVID era right now. Okay, so maybe I'm being too fancy here. No, it's not post-COVID, but yeah, we are getting into an era where we will say yes to hybrid learning or high flex learning. I mean, you name it. So if we have that as well, we need to know about our students' needs, what they need. In our group, one of the students, Sumaya, she was also talking about the use of technology. So students are very comfortable with typing, submitting everything online. So we had that. We actually had that before. ULAB is very active with Moodle, with Google Classroom. It was even in the pre-COVID era as well. However, now that the students are so comfortable doing everything online, so can we have an option like that where students will be able to do that in the class as well? So that basically that was our conversation.
Yeah, that's great. And you can actually do a project like that. It's very relevant and contemporary. Just make sure that you are grounding it with appropriate literature or a framework.
Yes, I was thinking about whether I'm going to use AD framework. Then from there, I was like, no, AD is not going to work if I don't have proper evaluation. I mean, that's something that's going to.
AD is overused.
that is true, right? I mean, everybody uses AD. Yes, I know.
I think you can start thinking of it from now, and I think if you can finish it in a few months, then it will guide other universities who are trying to reopen. So you can take a lead on that through this design-based research approach. I think it's a great idea. So let's go to group 2. I think Mahareen Appa was there.
Assalamualaikum Doha bhai, Mahareen here. So we started a bit late with the teams joining in and out, but we were talking about a very common factor with two of our, we were talking about the lack of interaction in online sessions. And we were thinking about maybe we can, first of all, go for a focus group discussion with the faculties in interdisciplinary department to find out, is it a common factor for all courses, or we can narrow them down to a specific types of course where the students do not show any interest or do not unmute themselves and engage in discussion. Once we have those particular courses which need our intervention, then we can actually design a more detailed questionnaire, one set for the students and one set for the faculties to find out whether it has been a teacher-centric lecture. And if that's the reason, then we have to proceed our offering and support and find the right theoretical framework to plot them into the fact that there has to be more investment done. Now I'm trying to add my business background, that we have to now invest in motivating faculties to engage in more of online interactive softwares or tools, maybe like Padlet, Mentimeter, so that students keep on interacting. And more training would be needed to make sure that there has to be a reason for why these courses are needed more interaction. So maybe we have to focus more on the necessity of motivation that comes from the evaluation as well, making them more of a visible thing or part of their some sort of incentives.
Yeah.
And then we were cut off abruptly. But thank you. It has been a wonderful discussion so far. Thank you, Doha, for making this happen.
Thank you so much. I think it's a timely topic as well. I mean, you can also think of making it a DBR project. So last but not least, Hafsa was group 1.
Oh, okay. So we actually thought of a similar project as Mahareen's. We thought of this challenge of involving our students in class discussions, encouraging them in interactions. So we also thought of having some kinds of needs analysis, trying to find out first what are the challenges the teachers are facing, what exactly is happening, and their opinion why the students are not participating, and then also sitting with the students, meeting them in person, as a focus group, or probably, depending on the number of students, we can have questionnaires, or we can even have individual interviews. And then we can find out why they do not choose to participate or interact in class. And then probably we can come up with findings. And of course, we can probably think of ways to really train our teachers to make their classes, online classes, interactive, and train our students as well, because I think in Bangladesh especially, we are not used to it yet. So training them is very important too. And also we talked about how we could probably encourage asynchronous activities as well through learning management system or a Google Classroom, whatever we are using, because a lot of students are actually introverts as well. They do not want to interact, when we have synchronous sessions. So probably encouraging those students at least to participate in asynchronous activities might be helpful. So yeah, we couldn't talk that much, but yeah, I think, we had a similar kind of project, as Maharin was talking about. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And I think you're the right person to do that. You did your PhD in online learning. So you'll be the best person to guide this. Okay, so let me just cover the last few slides. I'll go very quickly, I promise, maybe 1 or 2 minutes. So I just have some references for you, the resources that I used in my presentation, and some resources. These 2 websites are very helpful to learn more about design-based research. And there are some journals that publish special issues on design-based research. You can go through them. And there are some articles that I thought that probably would be helpful to understand more about design-based research. Please just download this article. If you don't get a copy by any chance, just let me know. I'll be happy to share an article with you. And then there are more here. So thank you so much. It has been a great discussion, and I have also learned a lot through the process. So do you have any last questions? I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Shams. And yes, let's have probably a couple of questions, or maybe 3 before we wrap up. Any questions, or you can also make comments as well. I think there was one question from a student, Hira. Can we talk more about the project lead? Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. So that's actually, for me probably. So yes.
Okay.
Yes, I mean,
yeah.
Actually.
So probably we can think of this project and do it. So any questions or comments? Anyone?
I'm sharing my email address. If anybody has any question, feel free to.
Yeah, Maharin has a question, I think.
I have a question. Sorry, I also have a question.
I just have a very generic question, Doha bhai. So for our
Maharin, I think okay.
Maharin should go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, I can wait because I have a very generic question, actually, nothing technical. So
No,
my
she
question
will not dead. Please go ahead.
My question was to how much time and effort do you think young faculty researchers should give in parallel to their teaching and research? Because obviously in Bangladesh context, we do suffer a lot from the course loads and the number of students that we have to take care.
Yeah, that's always a variable. Like all my graduate studies, if I ask any question to my advisor, most of the time she answers that it depends. So I will also tell that it depends. So since in Bangladesh, there is no research university, so you cannot give dedicated time to research, but we need research. So it depends on your availability, like time and your interest in a particular topic. But I think the people who are interested in research, they do research anyway. So it's a matter of managing time, managing effort, and getting more interested in a topic that will help you to do more research without any reward, I guess. So yeah, there's more of time management and energy management. But I would again like to emphasize that research is very important. So even if you don't get any course release for that, I think everybody should continue that in one way or the other. Yes, sir had a question.
This is again a very generic observation, not a question, because when you asked Sumaya that what was your theory, and I was just listening to her responses, and I realized that because she comes from a literature background, and our idea of theory is different from the practitioner kind of theory that you just discussed, right? So for example, when you think of theory, we think of Marxism, we think of structuralism, post-structuralism, so all those, different theoretical schools. Now, do you see any way of incorporating literary theories or cultural studies theories, in doing practitioner-based research? Because you're talking about an interdisciplinary problem. And
right.
If you're dealing with a, say, literature classroom and the kind of issues that we are discussing, so is there any way of incorporating our theoretical orientation rather than trying to get into areas that we are not comfortable with?
That's an interesting question, sir. I didn't really think about that, but I think we cannot separate literature from life, and many of the literary theories can still be applicable. And DBR gives this flexibility of combining multiple theories in your design process. So I think it's very much possible to integrate theories into that if that's relevant to the particular context or the particular project that you are doing. I cannot give any particular example right now because I have to recall all those theories from my literature study, but I'm sure that there are some ways to integrate that, because we integrate theories from psychology, for example, like educational psychology is a very emerging field nowadays. So I'm sure that since we can...
Let me just give you an example, say we deal with power issues, we deal with gender issues in a literary text, right? So if you have to deal with a gender related problem or a power related, the issue of agency, so even in a classroom setting, so the power dynamics between a teacher and the student, you have to measure it. So how do you apply DBR in a situation like that?
So measurement is a real problem probably in literary theories or literary measures. I mean, this measurement is a real problem here. So how we measure in our field is we develop questionnaires. So those were validated questionnaire that we give out to students, then they give responses, and then through those responses, we analyze that data. So if something is related to gender, like gender issues or gender theories, then you can just integrate it with other theories, and that theory will enlighten the other theories in some way in the DBR process, I think. So I'm not I don't know the details about all those theories, but I'm sure that those can be integrated to other theories to make the process better or more effective, if that's related to the subject that you're investigating.
Okay, say again, a follow-up question on that. Say, for example, I'm talking about this idea of gender in a classroom setting, and the teacher is dealing with a text which involves queer or transgender issues. And so some of the students are not comfortable with, so the queer or transgender issues, right? Or the third gender issues, or maybe homosexuality, whatever. And we measured those with a questionnaire, right? So how many students are really comfortable in dealing with issues which are so not culturally sensitive and whatever, right? So you do that data, you do that analysis. But when you have that human performance index or something like that, we don't have that. Right. So if we just do that kind of data and analysis, can we still apply DBR?
I think so, because DBR explains the process, and DBR explains how something is affected or something. I mean, you explain the whole design process to DBR. And if you apply those theories, and if you apply those, if you get a measurement through the questionnaire, or if you just do observational studies on that, or if you just observe your students being affected by those particular circumstances, you can also report that through your research, how you saw them. It can be, I mean, you can also combine ethnographic studies into that, combining different methodologies. So I think it's still possible to DBR on that, because DBR gives you the flexibility to combine different theories and then report it in your paper. So it's all about reporting how did you get to a particular outcome, or how did you follow, or what you followed through the process, I think. But I will take a deeper look at that.
Sure. All right. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Shamsud sir, just to add a little bit to what you were asking. Actually, in education, there are quite a few theories, I think, that you study in literature are also used in educational, research. Say, for example, Michel Foucault's theory of power. So I used it for my own research, while doing my PhD. So, those are widely used and talked about in education. So I think, it's very much possible to use literary theories also. Probably at least some, not if not like in all of them.
So usually what I've seen, like, the linguistic papers or the language papers that, even in this conference. So you use Bordeaux, like, the cultural habitat, symbolic capital, cultural capital, or you use Foucault, but that to prepare the context, but that does not really, like, reflect in your actual conclusion of your paper. So you do your initial gambit, so mentioning some of the theoretical thing, so a little bit of, cultural studies, a little bit of, like, sociology or ethnographic, and then you move on to your own comfort zone. That's how the papers are designed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the impression I got.
I would say if it is done that way, then it's a weak kind of, research, because, throughout your research, everything that you do should be informed by the theory. If you are using a theoretical framework, the kind of questions you are asking, the conclusions you are drawing, the recommendations you are making, you should always, connect it with the theory that you are using. So I would say that, those are probably,
exactly.
a weak kind of
That's exactly my
research.
question. When I asked about the transgender, that was the exact question I actually asked. Say, if you have a practitioner, so if you have to think of a practice, and then from the practice you're coming to the theory, so it's actually reversing the process. So because when we talk about literary text, we talk about praxis. So theory and practice comes together in the praxis form. So if a Marxist is writing a paper on, say, Hamlet, so you think of the class discrimination and all that. So you're trying to put theory into practice. Like, this has been done, like, throughout ages, like, so there's nothing new about it. But when you try to quantify that kind of theory, that's where it becomes interesting. And that's what exactly, Shams is talking about. So, again,
I think that's why it's one of the reasons why people are preferring, like, qualitative research more and more nowadays. Though, a lot of people also say that, they do not want to accept qualitative research, but
one common concern about qualitative research is it's not generalizable. So we call it's transferable, although it's not generalizable. Like, you can apply it in your own context. I mean, you can probably not get 100% from that, but you can still apply some of the insights that came from qualitative research. So it's more of transferability than generalizability.
You're absolutely right. So Ivy, like, gave the talk last week, and so she talked about her experience of sharing knowledge with school teachers from Hatia, right? And so she was talking about innovation in classroom, and even say an origami becomes technological devices for storytelling. So the digital storytelling, like, so we all talk about digital storytelling, but a school teacher, by using an origami with a paper, makeshift thing, artifact, that's the word she used. So that was empowering for a school teacher, right? That she was becoming creative. And she was using this homemade technology to become or emancipate, her pedagogic role. So that is ethnographics, and that I get. But again, what she was saying that, so she was avoiding jargon-oriented theories. so that's very interesting. Like, so we get two different views. So, but I fully appreciate what you are saying, and I see the process and how the process is being reversed and how the practitioners can be incorporated in the research orientation. So research should not be something archived and shelved, and it should not be done for the ego of the publisher or the writer or an author. So more about, so talking to the real people out there, and then making the process part of your documentation, part of your research, and your observation becomes, an archive for others, right? So yeah, thank you.
Most importantly, bridging research and practice. How can you make research like beneficial for the people?
Yeah, and this was said by Bacon in the 15th century or 16th century. All right, anyway, so yeah.
So do we have any more questions? If not, then we will just wrap up the session. Yeah, I think that's it for now. And thank you very much for your very informative session, Shams. And I believe many of us have found it useful and will be using it probably in future in our own research. And thank you all for participating and making this very lively. Thank you very much, everyone who worked behind the scene to make this event a success. So I would like to wrap up this session here. And thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shams. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for being here.
My best to Dr. Jennifer. I'll be writing to her, right? Okay. Okay, then. Take care.
Yes, sir.
Well done, Hafsa. Okay, so well done, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you can stop the recording.
Yeah, sorry, Arifa had a power cut, so she is powerless.